We wish you a Merry Christmas. Are you kidding me? Rangers fans, Christmas came early as the Rangers continue to check boxes and accomplish off-season goals. And we've got a great guy here to talk about it with you. Mike Bacsik from Rangers TV joins us on the DLLS Rangers podcast. How about the Prophet with the line of the day? The Rangers hit the jackpot. That is Joc Pederson. Yeah, they've been wanting to sign him. They have agreed to sign him to a free agent contract. We welcome you in to the DLLS Rangers podcast. It's the ALLCITY Sports Studios, and it's our most popular guest yet. Look at this. We've got everybody coming in to show Mike Bacsik love.
My old partners.
Our Cowboys show.
What's up, man?
Are you gonna? Is Jeff gonna tell me to shut up on this show?
Shut up, Mike.
Oh my gosh,
I
Jeff!
used to do that 8 times a week.
Well, you're violent,
Well, he
Jeff.
deserves
For
it.
God's sake!
Mike,
Yeah.
you gonna be good today, bro?
These guys celebrating Cowboy wins.
Yeah, we did.
Holy cow!
Wow.
Oh.
Going to the Super Bowl. Look at Jesse. That's a Jesse dance. So see how popular this guy is?
Holy cow!
Unbelievable. He's been all over the market. Mike and I have worked together forever. What year?
2014, I believe, was my first year
So
to
we
start
started at the
doing
ticket?
Rangers pre. Oh no! Before that, holy cow! Yeah, 2009. I believe. 2008, 2009 at the ticket.
Yeah.
Actually found a random like CD of
one
of our shows. Yeah, we'd be a
They
fill-in
were
at the ticket.
damn good. They were damn good radio shows. John Radigan, Rads, Mike Bacsik. They call him ball sack. And
That's not nice.
And then J-Dub over there. We got Jeff Wilson, the Prophet, man, starting us off with a bang. I love that Joc pot headline. Really good. It is a good day. We want you to join us. We want you to like us. We want you to subscribe to us. We already see lots of names in the chat. The Rangers getting busy. Jeff, you learned in doing a little research and working some sources Friday that the Lowe trade was sort of nigh upon us, right?
Well, it was definitely.
Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt, but I forgot.
Oh, God.
Beers. We have a
Oh.
guest.
Do you get one, Jeff?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm old
We
enough.
got beers for the guest.
You're holding. Check your ID.
Yeah.
All right.
Old enough. Yeah. So anyway, Friday
Yeah.
you kind of
Yeah.
ferreted this out.
It was definitely the Rangers' intention to trade him, and I think it's kind of been that way all season. It was kind of contingent on if they could find a better value, I think, and an upgrade. And I think offensively, Jake Burger's an upgrade over Nathaniel Lowe, so they felt good about that. And then all of a sudden, these first basemen just started flying off the shelves.
Right.
So I'm Sunday morning, that's yesterday, I'm writing a story about Nathaniel Lowe is going to be traded. Here are the possibilities. And then I had to go to my daughter's volleyball game, and then boom, the trade is consummated. So it was going to happen. I think the market kind of dictated it too, that it just made too much sense for the Rangers to not do it.
You know, it's interesting on like how these things come about. I remember a few weeks ago, it's like, hey, the Rangers are interested in a left-handed bat and Joc Pederson, and this is after the Burger thing. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Where is Joc Pederson going to fit in your lineup if Lowe's at first and Burger's DHing or vice versa?
Right.
I'm like, this doesn't make sense that they need Joc Pederson, but I guess it just goes to show during the winter meetings, this plan was in place. It just hadn't been executed yet.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We talked about it on this show a little bit like, man, this is not good news for Nate Lowe. And for those of us that love the guy, because he's a lovable guy. He was a great teammate. He was a leader on that team. I mean, there was a lot to like. And the Rangers loved the guy. I mean, he's very likable, very lovable. But we were like, this isn't good for him. And by the way, the night that the burger deal came through, you were there, the toy drive thing.
Yep.
He was interviewed and he said, well, yeah, I've had a great run, so if this means this is the end, that is what it is, and I'll make the best of it someplace else. I mean, he kind of could see the writing on the wall.
And that's probably his agent.
Sure.
Right. That's probably Nate Lowe calling up his agent going, hey, what does this burger thing mean to me? And then probably the agent tells him, I'm sorry, I don't have Nathaniel Lowe's agent off the top of my head. But probably the agent telling him, hey, I'm hearing rumblings that you could be on the move. The Rangers have let me know this. You're still part of their plans as of now. And so probably Lowe getting a heads up that there are things that are in the works here. And we find out Sunday night. Everything kind of came into place for the Texas Rangers and for Lowe to be, I'm going to assume, the everyday first baseman with the Washington Nationals.
Sure.
Yeah, and they needed one. They tried Joey Gallo last year, and that didn't work. That didn't work particularly well.
4 games of that experiment.
It's weird. These guys, somebody had told me the Tigers, because Spencer Torkelson just hasn't panned out.
Just hasn't been there yet.
The Giants, the Mariners, all teams that need first baseman, but like the Guardians, they traded Naylor to the Diamondbacks and then signed Carlos Santana right away.
Yeah.
This kind of has a feel like it. The Rangers traded Nathaniel Lowe and knew that the next shoe to drop was Joc Pederson, and they did it within 24 hours.
Do you think that they moved him to the Nationals in that he's not in the American League? Not that Nathaniel Lowe is Juan Soto. I'm not saying anything like that. But it's interesting to me. I'm just wondering, is this about Robert Garcia? Is this about, hey, Nathaniel Lowe, if you look at the American League, as I know his numbers aren't awesome, but if you look at the American League, besides Vladdy Guerrero Jr., numbers at first base are not high offensive numbers. It's weird that it's at shortstop now that you get the high offensive numbers at shortstop, not at first base. I was wondering if the Rangers go, hey, we're going to move Lowe, but we're not moving him to Houston. We're not moving him to the New York Yankees. These could be teams that are looking for first basemen that we have to compete for a playoff spot with.
It's an interesting point because, the reality is they know, we all know, we've all seen it. Somewhere in Nathaniel Lowe is that power, right? And it's the power that they seek. He's even said it. The only thing sort of missing from his arsenal has been that he just can't catch up to the fastball, and he just hasn't shown the power numbers that you want to see from a first baseman.
Yeah.
And so, they might be going, he's going to find that power, and it's not going to find it with the Houston Astros. Let them sign Christian Walker,
I don't like in-division trades anyway,
I don't either.
You could argue the biggest one the Rangers ever made for Cliff Lee, that was within the division. But, you don't want to see these guys come back and bite you. And I get that. To your fastball point, Berger hits the fastball really well, and Joc Pederson really hits the fastball well. So, the Rangers, you can look at their offense last year, and it was down across the board. They actually did better against left-handers than right-handed pitching. So they've wanted to improve against right-handers. Well, Berger had better splits against right-handers. Pederson is pretty much a platoon player. So, it's going to be, they've addressed two needs, the heater and against right-handed pitching.
Sure. Yeah. So you've got Robert Garcia coming back. And if you just look at that, Mike, you go, here's a pre-arb guy who doesn't have great numbers, didn't have great numbers last year, actually has a great story. You heard that he had retired, but his paperwork didn't go through. He took a 9-to-5, and then somebody said, hey, we're interested in you. And he said, let me see and it hadn't gone through. So he got a chance, and he went to camp with somebody, and now here he is. But
good gravy.
Well, I have big news then. I never turned in my paperwork either.
Yeah, okay, good.
So just saying, if you need a guy who throws probably topping off at about 76 at this point.
Yeah, but you're lefty.
I would confuse a lot lot of hitters that first time through the lineup. They're like, when is he going to throw a fastball? And I'll be throwing my gas in the mid-70s.
So anyway, this kid, you look at that trade and go, Nathaniel Lowe for this? If it wasn't that the Rangers were trying to accomplish something, which is to get rid of the money that Nathaniel Lowe will probably be granted in arbitration, somewhere around $10 million. This isn't a trade, I think, that would have been consummated.
No,
right?
This is not we like Garcia and we're
Right.
trading Lowe for Garcia. They liked moving off of the money, and they think that Garcia can compete in spring training for a spot. And I would say, Jeff, that he has a spot above Pennington. He has a spot above Jacob Latz. So he is the person that can win this battle, and he gets it from spot number 1 with these guys. But it doesn't mean he's automatically on the team. So I think the Rangers liked him, but it wasn't like we're getting a guy that we know is going to get lefties out or get big-time hitters out in the 7th or 8th inning.
Well, the most attractive thing about him is that he can't be a free agent until 2030.
Right.
So, I mean, you're going to control this guy for a long time. A lot of strikeouts per 9, 11.3, and his FIP, if you're a believer in FIP, was 2.38. So he was unlucky. His ERA was 4-something. So, there might have been some unlucky hits or some crappy defense behind him, whatever. So maybe there's some upside there. But Mike, you were kind of looking at it. He's like a 2-pitch pitcher to whoever to each
Lefties
side of the
or
plate.
righties.
Yeah, he threw 295 changeups last year. 295 of them were against right-handed
That's
hitters.
unbelievable.
And then about 90% of his sliders are against left-handed hitters. So when you're looking at it, he does throw fastball, changeup, slider in that order. But if you're looking at him, he's 2 pitches against righties. It's fastball, changeup. He's 2 pitches against lefties. It's fastball, slider. So we will see how that improves. And then the other thing, too, is you don't know. Is it Mike Maddox? Is it scouts? Who is it that looked at his video and said, here's what I see, and here's what I think we can get more out of him? Because I don't think you look at him, Garcia, as a finished product. You got to see him as we like this and we think we can improve that.
Yeah, so if you're Maddox, do you try to get him to the point where he has more confidence in that changeup to where he'll feel comfortable throwing it to lefties?
Yes.
You've had guys, have you had pitching coaches do that with you? Like
I won't say pitching coaches. I'll say John Franco. If you remember, he was a reliever for 20 years, Reds, most known for the Mets. I played with him on the Mets.
Yeah.
He would get Barry Bonds out in big-time playoff situations, changeup against Barry Bonds.
Wow.
Throw that changeup inside. It looks like it's a heater. It has the same spin as a fastball. And then the hitter has to react of, oh no, he's challenging me inside hard. I got to turn the hips. I got to get the hands in quick. And then the ball's not there because you've taken 6 to 10 miles an hour off of your fastball and you get them. So can they get Garcia with the confidence to believe? Because here's the deal. If you miss down the middle, it can go really bad for you. And you're like, why did I throw a lefty on lefty changeup? But if you can keep that pitch on the inner half of the plate or run it in off of the plate against lefties, they'll either swing and miss because they thought it was 10 miles an hour faster, or they'll knock the crap out of this pitch. They'll just hit it 400 feet foul and you have a strike on that pitch. Now you've put in their head, when he throws inside, is it going to be 94 or is it going to be 84?
It's interesting that Mike Maddox, when Walter Pennington came up, he was strictly slider. And so, Mike said, no, you need to throw your fastball more. And when Walt was sent down initially, not for very long as it turned out, but it was like he just had to work on his heater. So he was down there AAA pumping fastballs, trying to spot his fastball. And it's not a great fastball, but it's got to be something. You just can't have these guys sitting on slider. If they see it a ball out, they don't even have to move.
To your point, if you're a Aroldis Chapman, you don't have to make your fastball deceptively fast. It's already fast.
Right.
But if you're throwing the ball like we just picked up with the Rangers, Milner, Garcia, you talk about Pennington, probably out of the guys, Latz probably has the best overall just stuffed fastball.
Yeah.
But how do I make my fastball look faster than the radar gun says? And to your point, it is, hey, do I throw it in these situations? And then we talk about tunneling, which just is like the ball coming out of your hand, looking like the same pitch for as long as possible. How can we tunnel these pitches to then make your 94 to hitters look like 104? And I'll give you a great example, Ranger fans. He's not left-handed. Kirby Yates throws 92, 93.
Oh my God.
His fastball looks like 102. If you didn't know any better and you're just watching the game and there was no velocity on this, you would say, oh, well, that fastball is 102 the way the hitters are reacting to it. But it's because of that split finger that makes that fastball play higher than the speed says.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And all you have to do is look at how teams adjusted so quickly to Rocker's slider, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, one game in, I can't remember who the second game was against, but they're all just you throw the slider all you want, because we're not going after it.
Yeah.
And that's what major league hitters do. They make that adjustment quickly, so you got to be ready for that. Okay, we got lots more coming up with Mike Bacsik. Thrilled to have him here as a guest today. We'll talk more about what he will be doing, because he'll be doing more games this year. That's the tease, and we'll talk about how many with him a little later on. Coming up next, we want to talk about the moves that Chris Young has made maybe ever since he's got here, certainly what he's done already this offseason. That's next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. First, Mike, have you noticed how nice these floors right here look? The
Beautiful
wood floor right here.
Play some basketball on those.
We could play basketball on these. There's the second shut up, Mike. He's Kavanaugh says he gave you 8 a week.
It was around there.
Now, with the three of us and maybe someone else played golf, and I think he said it 9 times on the golf course. Shut up, Mike. But anyway, yeah, beautiful floors. The Empire Today floors are fantastic. And we always talk about the fact that you're not buying these things from some guy who's going to sell a plunger or some guy who's just sold a toilet or some guy at a big box store. I've made the mistake of getting floors at a big box store. Don't make that mistake. Go to Empire Today. They're the best. They're the original. Everybody else who's selling these floors out there is pretty much copying them and trying to do what Empire Today has been doing forever. You go to EmpireToday.com and you use the code DLLS, you get $350 off your new floors.
And, HelloFresh also has a pretty good deal for our listeners if you use the code Free Rangers. But John and I have tried HelloFresh, as we've said. We really, really liked it. It's easy, comes right to your door. You don't have to go to the grocery store. It's like high-quality, sustainable things, farm to, not market, but farm to your door. And, man, it's just good. You can get burgers, something as simple as a burger, or you can get these bowls that my wife and I seem to be trending toward. So, and really, I know the holiday season's almost wrapped up, but it's still busy if the kids are out of school and you don't have time to do all this stuff. So, really consider HelloFresh. It's excellent. That's my ringing endorsement. So get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/Free Rangers, applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/Free Rangers, America's #1 meal kit.
So we just nailed that, by the way. 2 minutes on the dot. And so, we got a professional broadcaster in the house.
You're on the pitch clock.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the professional broadcaster in the house. We got to do this. But let's talk about Chris Young's moves really this offseason. You go into the offseason, Mike, and you needed, obviously, Nathan Eovaldi, but a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
For sure, right? You needed a reliever, a closer. You needed to rebuild the bullpen. So the starting pitcher they've done. They've rebuilt the bullpen, and you needed a bat. Well, they got 2. They got Jake Burger and Joc Pederson, and we're certain, Chris Young's going to do something to address closer. And it's like, boom. It seemed like a long laundry list to me at the beginning of the offseason. And here we are. We're halfway through the offseason, and we're almost done. He's really done a great job.
It feels like last year the offseason didn't even start until February 1st.
Yes.
Not for just the Rangers,
Yes.
but for it felt like almost every team. So I do love that you guys were at the winter meetings, things actually happened.
Right.
It felt like recently things weren't even happening at the winter meetings. Scott Boras, who obviously has he has a lot of the good and great players in this league. And it's like, until Scott Boras does something, nobody else can do something. And Scott Boras moved quickly with some of his big-time guys, and it kind of started the market going. So I do love that Chris Young has been aggressive in this market and not waiting for a lot of things to happen. He knew what he wanted. He's gotten most of those things. And I do think that 2024, going into the season, hey, how can I change a team that just won a championship? And so he stayed pretty stagnant on his team. I totally get it. And this year he's going, I'm not going to just look at 23 and just keep saying 2023, we figured out how to win it all. We won it all. I'm going to keep this team together again. He has said, no, I'm going to keep a lot of the core together, but I'm going to make a lot of changes around that core to see if we can be better than a 78-win team.
Yeah, you wonder last year, because again, there was the TV deal.
Uncertainty.
Did it affect them from some moves because they wanted a bat. They did want to they wanted to re-sign Jordan Montgomery, and that was a Boris guy and a Boris 4 and a disaster for both parties as it turns out. But there's more TV uncertainty this year too. But as it starts to come together, that John talked about last week, and I wrote a story about it. It seems like there's some confidence behind that, or else Ray Davis had an epiphany. I was like, well, we spent a lot of money to win a World Series, and that formula seems to work pretty well. They're still under the luxury tax. That's the thing. I think they still have money to sign a closer. I mean, they could try to do it on the value side and try to get a rebound candidate.
Try to get this year's Kirby Yates, right? They got him for $4.5 million.
Craig Kimbrell. Do you still believe in Craig Kimbrell,
right?
Or Jorge Lopez, who saved a bunch of games for the Orioles not that long ago? AJ Minter, not really a closer, though he has some experience coming off of an injury, a local guy. So there are names out there beyond Yates, Tanner Scott, and Carlos Estevez, but also these signings, and we forgot Kyle Higashioka, addressing a needed catcher.
A backup catcher too. That's right.
The Rangers had another weakness last year out of the bullpen against left-handers. Well, these lefties, and even Jacob Webb, the right-hander, pretty good against lefties. Jacob Webb's a big change-up guy as well. So you say, okay, well, they've addressed that need. Now, is that too many left-handers? Do you want to get a left-handed closer? Does the addition of Garcia and Milner kind of put you on the outs with Tanner Scott? I don't know. You just get good relief arms and make it happen. Bruce Bochy can do that. But these moves I feel like they've been very targeted. It's something that I heard back in October, Joc Pederson, I heard trade Nathaniel Lowe. So these are things that have not just, oh, shoot, let's try that. Things that they've really been thinking about. And it was always who's better than Nathaniel Lowe? Nathaniel Lowe had a 2.7 WAR last year. Christian Walker, who just signed for $60 million, 2.6. All right. Naylor, 1.5. He got traded. Carlos Santana, I don't think was any better than Nathaniel Lowe.
No.
I'm pretty sure Nate Lowe had a better WAR than Pete Alonso. Now, they go about it differently. They're talking about a lot of home runs with those guys, but still, could you do better than Nathaniel Lowe? And Berger, the fact that he's pre-arb and has a lot of home runs and hits the fastball, they're going to make up for those defensive deficiencies with that signing. And then, Pederson, it just seems like it's just been, we want this guy. Oh, let's go get him. And we get him. And if people think it's high, the Pederson deal, 18.5 per, what's high anymore?
Yeah.
What's high anymore? He's not costing you $51 million, right?
No.
And if he's your guy and you want him, then pay him.
Again, he made like 9.5, I think, last year with Arizona as strictly a designated hitter. So I was surprised that you had to give him 2 years for twice that amount. But he did turn down a player option or was it the player option?
It was a mutual option.
Mutual option.
It was a big number. It was a pretty big number.
Yeah. So you knew he was going to require and request more than that number. I looked at Roster Resource, which tries to approximate where teams stand on the salary or the luxury tax right now. And the Rangers, and at this moment, because they haven't officially signed Joc Pederson, his numbers aren't in there. And they're at, according to Roster Resource, $217 million. Mm-hmm. The CBT, the tax is at $241. Yeah. So if they add him, right, add his $16 million, I mean, they're flirting with that tax right now.
Well, with Evaldi, there was a $6 million.
True.
Well, it's actually like $12 million over 2 different years. So he's only making only 18 this year. So do you say, hey, Joc, we'll give you $5 million up front. Let's knock that number down and give us a little room to play with on the, to go get a closer. So I mean, there are ways to do it, and hell, I still don't think the Rangers have ever deferred any money other than the A-Rod thing. So maybe they defer a little here. Yeah. Who knows?
I'm wondering this, since we're talking about the salary and where guys fit. John Gray.
Yeah.
He makes 14 million.
14, yeah.
Do you see him as, if you're healthy, is he in the rotation? And if he isn't in the rotation, you need a lot of pitchers. You're going to need 10 or 11 starting pitchers. But if he isn't, does that 13 million make sense on your team? Do you stick him in the bullpen with his fastball slider mix as a 7th, 8th inning guy? And then Leody Taveras. do you like him as your fourth outfielder? And he is a guy, I mean, help me out here with money. He's arbitration eligible. So
yeah, around 4, I think.
Okay. And that's not bad for a fourth outfielder,
or,
but I'm just,
or like Dane Dunning was supposed to make around 4 and he signed for 2.6. Now I think they might've hung the non-tender thing over him and said, hey, you're their free agent or he signed for what we need, but you could do that for Leote. You could get him for less than 4 and save a little money there.
2.6 or take your chances.
But I see your point, Mike. And
you could maybe move a few other guys like you just moved Lowe to create more money if you need it, right?
Yeah, you could.
There's a surplus. There's also a surplus at that utility infielder, right? You got Ezekiel Duran, you got Josh Smith, Jonathan Ornelas is sitting there. I mean, there's a surplus of players. None of them are going to, get you a lot of money back. But
you can always find a utility guy.
Yes.
I wonder what Chris Young and Bruce Bochy are thinking about the left side of the infield, because a lot of people bring up Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran. You just did. But if I gave you Josh Young started 120 games at third base this year, would you be happy with that? Would you think that's okay? Where would you be?
I think I'd be very happy with that because I love what he does at the plate when he plays. And I think we just had Steve Buechele on the other day, and we were talking about the fact that, he improved his defense remarkably. I mean, he had a great year defensively in 2023, which we didn't really expect just watching what he did when he got called up. So I would say give me 120 games of Josh Young at third base.
So far, Corey Seager has not been a healthy player for the Texas Rangers. If I give you 120 starts at shortstop, are you happy with that?
Yes.
I just created 80 games I need started at third base and shortstop.
Yeah.
I just gave you a number you guys liked, and you said, yes, 120 games from Josh Young, 120 games from Corey Seager. That leaves you with 42 starts at third base and 42 starts at shortstop. I need Josh Smith. And so when somebody says, can I put him at DH every day? No, I can't. Because I'm going to need approximately 80 starts at shortstop and third base, and I'm giving you positive numbers on starts from my two guys on the left side.
Well, I think the 120 relative to the whatever the hell it was last year for Josh Young, you're like, yes, please. But that's, I mean, even in 23 when he broke his thumb in August, he's a 120, 130 game player, and Seager, he's only played 140 games in his career a couple times, I think.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting that point, but you need a super utility guy. And Josh Smith,
so then the question on Josh Smith becomes, can he perform offensively as he did last year when he played pretty much every day at only playing half the time, right? Because 81 games or whatever we were just talking about is half the games.
And now I just got Joc Pederson, who doesn't hit against left-handed pitchers.
Can't play the field.
I have Evan Carter, who's probably going to be my everyday center fielder, except I need to give him quite a few days off when the Rangers face left-handed starting pitchers. So I have two guys in my everyday lineup, I think, in Carter and Joc Pederson, who can't be in my lineup when teams start lefty pitchers. So now Ezekiel Duran, if let's say I just don't have any injuries at third base and shortstop, is he my fourth outfielder? Because Leote doesn't hit against left-handed pitching either. So
he doesn't hit well.
So this is going to be interesting where we're at right now with the Rangers and what Chris Young has done. Is he done with the 13 position players?
Well, I mean, okay, so you backup catcher, that's always one. Okay, Josh Smith. Leote, if your outfielder is Langford, Carter, Garcia, so that's 3. So then is your fourth Duran? I mean, but we saw last year what happened when Duran sits.
Right,
it's not pretty. He needs to play a lot.
He needs to play.
Is there a right-handed hitting Travis Jankowski out there? Seriously, a guy who knows how to stay ready. I mean, Robbie Grossman hasn't signed yet.
I think we all love Tavares as a person, right? I know Leote's a great guy, great teammate. But does Leote make sense as your fourth outfielder if you need a guy who hits against left-handed pitching?
Well, he does in large part because Bruce Bochy loves the guy. He loves his athletic ability, and he loves his upside, right? He just, I mean, again, at what point do you stop? Sort of, potential only takes you so far. But Boch we just had him on from the winter meetings, and Jeff brought up, Leote again, and he sings praises about Leote because he knows how good this kid can be.
Well, and he's staying local. Didn't go back to the Dominican. He's local this year.
Yeah.
working with Donnie Ecker, and you'd assume the new hitting coach Veely. So maybe they fix something. I don't know, but the right side is an issue for sure.
Yep, no doubt. So, man, it's going by quick. You know that bell means we got to go to a break, Mike. So we've got more. We're going to talk about Mike Bacsik. He's going to give us all the latest skinny on what's going on with the TV deal, because he's a TV guy on the Rangers broadcast. So maybe not, but we'll talk about what he is going to do and how much he'll be involved. You're going to like how much he's involved. Also ahead, we've got our batting cleanup segment. So stick with us. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Shady Rays. Bad day for me today.
It's not sunny.
I left my Shady Rays sitting. I keep the keys on a little hook here and the Shady Rays on a shelf right there in the mudroom. Forgot the Shady Rays. It was not sunny when I left. So I'm like, I don't need sunglasses. I don't know what went in my head. Anyway, I hate it when I don't have my Shady Rays. I wore a different pair today, which are fine, but you'd love Shady Rays. Mike, have you Shady Rays yet? We got to get
I watched
the
show. I've seen you guys with the Shady Rays. I know your future's so bright.
Yeah, it's very bright.
You got to wear shades.
We got to get you. We got to get you a pair. They're fantastic. They're durable. We've had ours now for 3-4 months. I swear to God, they feel like they're brand new. I haven't been able to put any scratches on them. Not that I try, but I just do. Right? They just get scratched. So, and they have a warranty. So if I do that, they're probably going to give me a new pair for free. So they're the greatest. Get Shady Rays. Go to shadyrays.com. Use the code DLLS. 35% off Shady Rays.
You know, we have Game Time, and we're going to have some big Game Time news here next week as a company. So we're very excited about that. We don't want to spoil it. So for now, we'll just leave it as a testimonial. How did your concert go the other night, John?
It was a play, a musical.
A play,
and it went fantastic. We were at the Windspear Opera House, and it was just, because it was the first time I'd executed the use of the Game Time app, I'm just like, God, I hope there's no issues, because, my wife will, what are we doing? But it was so easy. Tickets were there. They were fantastic. They were right where they said they'd be. It was great. Loved everything about it.
Yeah, Game Time, if you don't know, they're your go-to ticket app. You need tickets for anything, and there's so much going on in this area. You can find it at Game Time. Two things, all-in pricing. That number you see is no hidden fees, and then you can check out where your seat's going to be. So download the app, $20 off your first purchase with the code DLLS.
So Mike Bacsik is our guest today. We're awfully glad to have him. Mike and I have been friends for a long time, as he has been with Jeff, too, just in his involvement around the Rangers. Of course, Mike pitched for the Rangers in 2002?
2004.
And one of his teammates on that Rangers team was Chris Young.
Yeah.
And you guys have a relationship now that I think maybe, you get when you're teammates, and you don't necessarily get unless you are.
Right. I know guys around the league that I played against and will say hello, but when you are with somebody on a daily basis from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m., you're staying at the same hotel. And Chris and I actually didn't play on the Rangers together, because when I went up to the Rangers in 2004, he was still in AAA.
Oh, okay.
When he went up, we might have been competing and battling for like one of those same spots, you know, and like I'll bring up guys like R.A. Dickey would get hurt or Kenny Rogers or something like that one of us would go up. So we were on Oklahoma City together, the Red Hawks at the time.
Yeah.
And we got to know each other very well, became teammates. I respect the heck out of him. I'll tell you when I'm biased. I'm biased for Chris Young. I think he's really smart, really knowledgeable. Love what he's done with the Texas Rangers. I think you're being led by a guy who, we all have egos. He has an ego, but he's not arrogant. He will listen to people. He will change if change is needed. So I got to know Chris. I remember shooting baskets with him at one point. After we
you were a pretty good basketball player.
I was decent at Duncanville.
You're not 6'10".
No, Chris Young was much better at Highland Park and then at Princeton. But I remember shooting baskets with him at some point. I'm going to say in August. I'm going to try to remember around that time. He's like, "Hey, Mike, the Sacramento Kings, because they run a Princeton offense with Chris Webber and Mike Bibby and Vlade Divac. It's like they're interested in me because I know that system. They believe I can play." And I just remember looking at Chris and going, "This is awesome. Do you want to play NBA basketball or do you want to play Major League Baseball?" Because I don't know if people know this or not, but Danny Ainge played for the Toronto Blue Jays for a second. But it's really tough to do two at the same time. You can kind of do football and baseball at the same time. That's very tough, but you can't really do basketball and baseball at the same time, especially as a pitcher. And so he ended up telling the Rangers, hey, I think I might want to go to Sacramento and try this out. And the Rangers said, how about you don't go to Sacramento? And they gave him, I believe, a 3-year contract after just pitching a month or two in Major League Baseball to deter him from going to the Sacramento Kings. So I remember him telling me that when Sacramento was interested in him. So if people don't know that about Chris Young, he was good enough that the Kings wanted him
after
in the NBA.
he'd been out of the game, the basketball game, for a minute.
He probably hadn't played in 2 or 3 years.
No, that was pretty. Pete Carrill at Princeton, they almost upset Georgetown. That was I was still in high school, I think. So in early '90s, Allen Iverson was on the team. And then Pete Carrill stayed the coach for a while. Then Bill Carmody took over, and that's who was Chris Young's coach at Princeton. But the system didn't change.
No.
Screens, backdoor stuff, not alley-oops because they don't have the kids that can jump and dunk it like that. But sharp passes, layups. You still see it on occasion with the Ivy League schools in the NCAA tournament. One team every year makes it and usually does pretty good. I think it's been Yale the last couple of years, but Penn is good. But this guy was legit. He really was.
Yeah, he was a really good basketball player.
He's everything that Chris Young has done that he's been successful at. Yes, the talent is there, the God-given ability is there, but he's a thinker. And so I could even tell in 2004, we're both in our early 20s then. You can tell I didn't know he's going to be a general manager or anything or a president now, but I knew that he thinks the game and is always thinking about things around the game too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's so competitive.
Yes.
He needs to
scary competitive at times.
And I think at times, in this job, he needs to
scale it back
a little bit. You're not always going to get your guy. And he knows that teams go through bad stretches and whatnot. Just
patience. Patience.
I think that's something that John Daniels had to learn too.
Absolutely.
You can't fix everything overnight.
No,
things just have to play themselves out.
And and obviously that competitiveness, it's a double-edged sword. And what we're seeing today is sort of the good side of that sword, as he just cuts through all the BS and says, "Here's what we needed. Here's what we got." Basically, they still need a closer. And who knows what they'll do to address some of these log jams at various positions. So, Mike, I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I probably wouldn't have said it on the air or on the stream if I didn't know. They said it on the radio. He's on 105.3 The Fan too every day still. But ball sack.
Yeah.
So where did that come from?
So when I was a rookie in Cleveland in 2001, we go to Toronto, and I say at the end of the year now, this is getting to like October 5th or 6th, because I think 2001, everybody knows September 11th, so the season got paused for a week. So teams that we were going to play, you had to reschedule them in early October. And we go to Toronto in early October, and as a rookie, you'll see this still at times. If you get to the game and you see the bullpen guys go out, I was called up, I was a bullpen guy. You either have like a New Kids on the Block, NSYNC, a Barbie backpack.
Pink backpack.
It has all the candy and goodies in it. So like, what's in that bag? It's snacks for us in the bullpen. And so I am taking that out to the bullpen, and a couple of Toronto fans, they were razzing us, and my last name is Bacsik. I have no clue how this came about, but I have the pink backpack, and some Toronto fans are saying, "Hey, ball sack." Now, I don't know if they're saying like because of my last name, because I'm carrying a bag, but they're like, "Hey, ball sack." And so the bullpen just loved it. They're dying, "Throw me a lolly," for like a lollipop. Yeah. So the Toronto fans in 2001 are calling me ball sack in the bullpen, and that stuck with my teammates. With your
teammates, of course.
And so all of a sudden I became ball sack.
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
that's great.
That's a good one.
That's
so. You do have some pretty interesting stories, like, and we tried to tell it not that long ago. I think when Mark McLemore was here, because I asked him, the biggest comeback in MLB history. You pitched in it.
You were a part of it.
Yeah.
And you remind remind Mac of this.
You were
all
on
the
the
time.
winning team.
It's amazing that they tie the record for most wins ever, and they were up 14-2 after 5 innings in a game and lost.
And it was when it was 14-2 that you came in.
No, unfortunately, I was
He
the
made
one
it
who got
14-2.
it down. Never pitched in the major leagues. Was not. I didn't go to big league spring training. I was on the minor league side in 01, but I'm having a great year. I get called up. A few days into it, it's Sunday night baseball. Jacobs Field at the time is packed. Every game's a sellout, and we're playing the Seattle Mariners. And I'm not lying. You could look up the record. They were about 90-20 at the time. Like, it was crazy what their record was. And I come into the game, never been a reliever in the minor leagues. I started literally every game in the minor leagues. I was a starting pitcher. First time ever to relieve, and I come in with the bases loaded, down 4-0 with nobody out and Mike Cameron at the plate.
Oh,
so that's my big league debut.
They didn't give you a lefty matchup.
Charlie Manuel did not let me into this thing easy. It's bases loaded, nobody out, 3rd inning, and it's 4-0 already. 3-2 to Mike Cameron. I'm like, I can't walk him. I'm known as a control pitcher. I'm not going to walk him. I'm going to challenge him here. And I throw a 2-seam fastball, and it goes right down the middle. I'm like, my gosh, I just gave up a grand slam home run.
Oh.
It hits the top of the wall.
Oh, good.
But then about 7 hitters later, I finally get Ichiro out. So that's my first ever out.
Oh,
nice.
Very exciting.
But at that point, I don't even know the score. I remember our pitching coach, I'm not making this name up, pitching coach name was Dick Pohl.
Okay.
And so he comes
He's
out
a legit guy.
and he goes, hey, the excitement's over, Bacsik. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, maybe for you, I haven't got a guy out, and I'm backing up third base and home plate after every batter.
Out of breath.
And so I'm just thinking to myself, it's not over, but I get out of the inning. At the end of the inning, it's 12-0.
Okay.
And then in the 5th inning, I give up 2 more runs. I don't remember how the 4th goes, but I don't give up any runs. It's 14-2. I end up pitching 6 innings in that game out of the pen because they need people to just eat innings. And I know I'm going back to the minor leagues after this game is over because I'm just here to eat innings for the next guy to come up. But it's 14-11 after 8. And guys have been taken out. We've taken out Juan Gonzalez. They've taken out all of their pretty much big-time guys. And we end up tying the game at 14 in the 9th inning. And I believe in the 10th, it might have been the 11th. They actually took me out for John Rocker. They're like, hey, it's 14-11. We're going to take you out. Great job. We're going to see if we can hold this at 14-11. Omar Vizquel gets a big triple down the first baseline, tie it up at 14. And then in the 10th or 11th inning, Holbert Cabrera, kind of one of those unknown guys that have been a bench player for most of his career, he gets a base hit to left field. I believe it's to Mark McLemore. I think Mac throws the ball home, but Kenny Lofton, who you're not going to throw him out from second base, he scores, comeback win. A few days later, I'm still on the team. We go to Minnesota. We win that series. We take the division over from Minnesota, hold on to that division lead, play Seattle in the playoffs, losing 5. But that first game ever, I come into the game, first relief appearance ever, get down 14-2, and it ties 2 other games. It was like in the early 1900s that these 2 games that a team had come back from 12
that
down.
much down.
That's pretty good. And then there's one other thing, Elijah. I was at the Hall of Fame this year, and I saw your hat.
Yeah.
We got a picture. There it is.
So that's Barry Bonds. I mean, I was really good at giving up runs. If you're like never heard of him, you're like, gosh, you gave up a lot. I did. I gave up a lot of runs, and that is Barry Bonds' helmet from hitting home run number 756. You see 762 there. That's what he ended his career with. By the way, Barry Bonds' on base percentage his last year in the major leagues, never played. On base percentage was 480.
Wow.
His last year was 480. Think about even today. Like I don't even know if Ichiro was 480 this year.
Definitely not.
But I gave up the home run to Barry Bonds when he broke Hank Aaron's record in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So that's what my hat said.
And you have had a few interactions with Barry since, right?
Very few.
Very few. Okay.
Yeah. But like talking on the phone.
Okay.
But not
you haven't
in the
seen
last
him.
decade or so, no.
Okay.
I know that the Rangers go to San Francisco this year, but I don't know how many games Barry
I
goes
sure don't
to.
ever, every time I've been there with the Rangers, I've never seen him around.
Yeah, I think it's very special occasions.
Yeah. Interesting.
Although he has been a little more active with the club, like at spring training and stuff. But
was he? Yeah.
But
and somebody had to give up that.
Somebody did. People that gave me hate, I was like, hey, there were 755 of these hit before me.
Yeah.
This wasn't home run number 1 in a 19-year career. He did this a lot. In fact, I didn't know it until they came out with that really cool Barry Bonds, Greg Maddux kind of deal. Is that Greg Maddux and John Smoltz are tied for the most home runs given up to Barry
that right?
Bonds? Yeah.
What? How many do you
I
remember?
want to say it's 9 apiece.
9 apiece.
Oh,
Wow, that's great. That's funny. Oh my gosh,
There we
we're
go.
flying by. All right, we didn't get to his whole career, but we'll try to work in a little TV talk.
It was
when
short. We
Yeah,
can get it
yeah,
2
that's
more
true.
minutes and we got
That's
it.
true. We'll try to get a little TV talk in and do our batting cleanup segment. That's all coming next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. But first, merchandise. Mike, we got a little merch for you.
Thank you. Holy cow.
There you go. All you got to do is be a guest on the show, people,
DLLS.
and you get free merch. Or, there's other ways to do it, which Jeff's going to talk about in just a minute here. But this is I don't think I've worn this one yet, but I really,
You like that
when
one?
you were talking about Mike the gum and stuff in the
Yeah.
suitcase, this is the kind of gum. It was Texas Chew, not in Cleveland, but I really like this shirt. Jeff's got the other one. Oh, good one there too,
Yeah.
Mike Bacsik. Yeah,
I got to thin down.
we got him an extra small. We're just like
Medium.
Jeff's got I got that one recently. I think I have that one in with the black or the gray. But anyway, we got a bunch of shirts and we like them all. We want you to get some. Go to store.allcitynetwork.com. Get yourself some of this fancy merchandise and keep it coming because in January-ish, sometime in 2025, we're going to have hats too. And there's another way to get a shirt, isn't there, Jeff?
There is. You can become a diehard member for the low price of $79.99. Free shirt there at $35. So you're doing this for $45. Basically, if you want to break down the math further, it's like $6.50 a month. I mean, it's such a good deal. And you get all premium content, access to all premium content, not just Rangers, but Cowboys, Stars, Mavericks, anything else we have coming up. We are a growing company. We're hoping to dive into the colleges and the Dallas Wings. So more is on the way, but you get the shirt, full access. We're going to have some events that have been planned that are coming up. You get 20% off of those. So it's really, and you're just not going to beat the deal. The other outlet here that covers the 4 major sports, occasionally, they use AP a lot now, is way more expensive than us. So go to allcity.com/join to become a diehard today.
Yeah, one of those events that we're going to have, Mike, is a golf tournament.
Okay.
So we're going to have to see if we can get you. You've been playing much golf lately?
I haven't played much lately.
Yeah.
But I got to play with Dave Raymond on the road.
Yeah, that
so
was
during the season.
Yeah, you play.
You
I know,
wake
isn't
up
that
at
weird?
7 or 8 a.m. and go play some golf.
Play
in the
golf.
morning.
I know, and it's always fun playing out there with Dave. I've done that too, and of course during COVID, Mike and I played together a lot.
Yeah.
When neither one. Well, you were working out of the house.
Yep.
And I wasn't. There weren't any sports to cover for me. So anyway, on the radio they stayed on every day, but. And Mike and I worked together, so we mentioned way back in the day at the Ticket, but quite a bit on Rangers Live. And I was always dying after I'd done this radio stint with Mike. I'm like, we got to get this guy on over here at Fox. I think it still was then.
Yeah.
And took a little while, but we finally did it. And then you've become a rising star at Fox. So are you allowed to tell how much you'll be able to do this year?
I actually have not got my schedule on how much I'm going to do.
Okay.
The great thing is the Rangers want me back. I
Yes.
will be back. Hopefully you're happy about that. I get that we can't please everybody, but I will get to do Ranger games again. We're still working out. We know David Murphy. Someday when I grow up, I want to be as good of a man as David Murphy is.
Yep.
Murph has, I have kids too, but Murph has kids. We're going to work around schedules and make sure everything works out there. I think the Rangers are going to announce everything after the new year.
Yep.
But I don't know exactly how they're going to announce everything. But everything's coming together. But I don't have a schedule yet because, like talking about going to San Francisco, I don't know if I'll be on that San Francisco trip.
Yeah. So it's basically Dave and you and Murph cycling through as
far as I understand. Yes, and then Jared Sandler. When Dave Raymond needs a few days off, I believe Sandler will take over for him.
Yeah, and I hate to tell you this. I don't want to burst your bubble because you were a popular guest with Jeff and Jesse and everybody coming over here. But Sandler, when we had him on, was more popular in part because his sister-in-law she might be right over there. She's our director of sales.
Okay.
So McCall Sandler
If
is
ever I have an inside number that seems like How did you get that? I will tell you, I usually don't look it up myself. I
Gotta
call
feature
Jared
it.
Sandler or I text Jared Sandler and I ask him, I would like this. And then within 3 minutes, he figures it out.
He's amazing.
Yeah. I'm trying to get better at it, but it just takes me forever.
Yeah, he's really good at that too, Jared. He's really good at it.
And I will say he's a great guy.
He's
like, how can you not know this? Or how can you not get this quicker? I'm like, I don't know how you do this.
Yeah. No, he's great. So anyway, we loved having him on. We love having you on. Any interaction with the late, great Ricky Henderson for you?
Yes. And I'll tell you, he is one of my heroes. He was my first ever favorite baseball player. Now, Oda B. McDowell was my first ever favorite Ranger. Ricky Henderson. If you guys remember these posters, you might have had them. I'm 47 years old, but they were Sports Illustrated posters. And they were kind of white borders. And this was Ricky Henderson was a Yankee in this one. And I had it in my room. So it was one of my first ever posters. I loved Ricky Henderson. How could you not love watching Ricky Henderson play baseball?
Fun to watch.
Greatest leadoff hitter of all time. And now everybody's trying to get Ricky Henderson. They're like, why don't we get a guy who hits 30 home runs and is really fast and hits 300 at the start of the lineup? So he was like one of the first ever guys to be arguably your best hitter batting leadoff. But in 2007, I got to meet Ricky Henderson, and it was just awesome. Now, I'll keep this kind of clean, but I think a lot of people do know this story. So we're at a hotel after the game. Ricky Henderson was the first base coach for the New York Mets. Willie Randolph was the manager at the time in 2007. And so after the game, Ricky's at the hotel, and Ricky might have smoked a little bit, and maybe not cigarettes or cigars. And so he passed that along to me. I had never smoked. I'd smoking a cigar, I believe, a few times in my life. I'm not the biggest fan of cigars. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, still haven't today. But Ricky passed me something to smoke, and I was like, well, it's the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. If there's any
my freaking hero
to maybe do this, I will do this. And so from Ricky Henderson, it was the first ever time.
How did that hit you?
I think I did it wrong. I had never smoked anything, so I'm like, maybe I didn't do this right. But after just a couple, I was like, I'm good, thanks, Ricky. So maybe I don't know if I did enough or whatever. But
that's a great story. I love that.
And Ricky told me at the time, because I just given up the home run to Bonds. He's like, I struck out against Nolan Ryan for his 5,000th strikeout, and I was like,
that's right.
I told Ricky right there. I said, Ricky, you're the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. You have championships with the Blue Jays, with the A's. You're the stolen base leader. I feel like you have more things on your resume than I have.
You got a few skins on the wall. Yeah. Shocking and sad that he's as young as he is, 65
His
years old.
birthday's on. I think he's born on Christmas Day too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you were at the Oakland series, the last series.
No, I was not.
You were not. Okay,
I
feel horrible.
I avoided that one on purpose.
I feel horrible because he was there.
Yeah.
And I didn't go down and say hello. Now, a lot of people were around Ricky Henderson, and Dave Stewart was there, but it was just, he was in great shape. I wish I was as in good a shape as Ricky was in Oakland there. I know he's 65 years old, but you would have just never guessed. You would have just said that guy is in just great physical shape today still.
Well, I saw him. I mean, I've seen him in Oakland at the club. Not like a towering figure.
Right.
No, he's quite small. But
it's like, shit, that's Ricky.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, check it out.
Yeah. Amazing. So, all right, let us, Prophet, let's put some questions up, because we want to get some questions from Mike, and we'll get to the rest of this stuff from the batting cleanup segment another day. But there you go. What would
a Dulles lighter package bring back?
Oh gosh. It's a good question. Obviously lighter, you might not want to trade him right now. I would say that teams would take a flyer on him based off of Vanderbilt, based on he did improve in AAA last year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think lighter at this point, I don't know this, but I think it would be more like, we'll take lighter, but I don't think you're going to get a lot of added value.
His value's low, too. You don't want to trade him when his value's low.
And isn't Adolis at this point,
he's probably pretty low, too. What's his number?
9 something.
I think 9.25.
9.25. Yeah. So, I mean, there's some value there.
It's a good question, but I would almost ask in return, do you want a right fielder in return? Because if I trade Adolis, I've now opened up right field, and I would probably need to get a right fielder back. And at 9.25, we can look at Adolis. He had his worst year as a Texas Ranger last year offensively. But can I get approximately 30 home runs at $9.25 million?
And you're not going to get
25 homers hurt.
Yeah.
Because I know what they said. He hurt his knee the last game of the year. He was hurt the whole season.
Jeff was saying it the whole last month.
And I just, and that's fine. If they don't want to disclose it, whatever. They don't have to. But
you're not going to get a better right fielder defensively, I don't think.
Yeah. Healthy and with the arm and everything.
That's where you knew something was wrong, because he was not covering the ground that we've seen him cover in right field. And that's where it's like something has to be up, because he's not chasing down these balls we're used to him chasing down.
I think he becomes tradable this next offseason. If he has a good year, he's still arbitration eligible. He'll enter his final year of arbitration. If he's, 35 and 100, let's say.
Yeah.
Then that's hard to replace. Are you going to find a better right fielder than him? But also, do you want to get something? I don't know. I think maybe after this year, because if he has a season like that, he's going to get a raise anyway. If he has a season like that, he's going to get a big raise.
Yes.
Last arbitration year.
Off of that question, do you think Leiter's competing for a bullpen spot in spring training, or do you think that most likely, if you're somewhat healthy in the rotation, he just goes to AAA and keeps working on being a starting pitcher?
I think he goes to AAA. I just think that you always need starters, and if you have too many of these guys in the bullpen, then when the time comes, who are you gonna call up?
Yeah.
If it's early, okay, these guys are still probably going to be stretched out, but if it's late May and you need a starter, and you've had a guy in the bullpen for 2 months, it's just
and Chris Young talked the family into being here, right? So Chris Young's going to give them and him as much leash as he can. The kid doesn't want to go to the bullpen. He's been great. He's talked about it. He talked to Abby about it and said, I have no problem with the bullpen. Yeah, he does. I mean, he wants to be.
He didn't last year.
Right.
Long term, he might.
Yeah, long term, I think he would. So it's a good question. What else we got over there, Prophet? Oh, look at there. They're thanking you for doing the show, Mike. Any word if they'll be granted permission with? Have you checked into the Sasaki thing at all?
It's so hush. It's very hush hush. The deal with the New York teams is somebody's always going to talk.
Yep.
In New York, the Rangers aren't going to talk. I know. I have my suspicions, just based on something that might have happened last week that didn't happen, and but I don't know. I don't know that for sure. I know this. Chris Young is convinced they're getting a meeting, so we'll see what happens. When it comes out, it may never come out.
Yeah.
That's just the way they operate, and that's fine, But I think they get a meeting.
I do too. They put too much work. They developed too much of a relationship in Japan over the last 2 years with Sasaki. That being said, I'll be shocked if he's not a Dodger.
Really?
I really will. Wow. I get what his agent said about all the
Small
stuff.
Markets
Maybe he doesn't need to be in LA. Maybe he doesn't need to be with other Japanese players on teams. I feel like the Dodgers have a major advantage here. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he is a Ranger, but for some reason, I just feel like he's going to be a Dodger.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, they've got a great starting pitcher on that team from Japan, and obviously the best player
technically.
Two technically, and the greatest player in the game today.
You covered the NBA, so Chris Paul got traded to the Lakers and they nixed it. I know people that are like, I'm not a basketball fan. The Dodgers withheld $2.5 million of their international spending money and didn't spend it. Am I correct about this, Jeff?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
It feels like it was almost like from MLB baseball. We know what you did. We know you've worked out some deal that we do not feel like is right. Maybe the legalities of it or ethics of it we can question. So I feel like everything was worked out for him to sign in December with the Dodgers, and somehow that got stopped. I don't know if it's going to be stopped in January.
That's interesting.
All right. I like your conspiracy theory.
There it is.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad. All right. If not Kirby, hang on. We're here every day, and we love to chat with you each and every day. So we appreciate you on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Merry Christmas.
Including today, when we're not quite done yet. We're going to ask Mike a couple more questions. If not Kirby Yates, then who?
You better trade for somebody. I don't love the free agent market, Jeff, for another closer that I trust. I don't want to go through 2023 and somehow get lucky that you only close 50% of your opportunities and still make the playoffs.
Not even 50, right?
It was below 50.
Oh.
Below 50%. Oh, man, that hurts.
Yeah, I don't. This is where front offices just blow everybody away. Is their ability to target who might be a trade candidate.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that you can take flyers on. I have no clue. But if they're going to go that route, well, you want somebody who's controllable and young and all that stuff. But, who's going to be a free agent next year who's a closer? Maybe you take a chance on a guy like that. Because, again, rental relievers generally don't cost a ton.
Right.
Especially at the trade deadline. But even now, when you're only going to get a full season and one full season out of them, probably not going to kill you on a trade. I like Tanner Scott a lot, but the lefty thing comes up. So I don't if you have too many lefties, but I don't know. Well,
he wasn't good in the playoffs, but I would see what it would take to get Emmanuel Clase. Now, he was a Ranger. Obviously, you traded him for Corey Kluber, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, for one inning.
But I would look at Clase because he's controllable, I believe, for the next 4 years, as in he's under contract. And I believe at the end of it, he's like at $10 million. Think of the bargain there that you'd be getting on Clase for the next 4 years, that you'd pay him approximately, let's say $32 million, I think it is, over the next 4 years. But what does it cost? Because that's not going to be an easy thing to get.
No.
Yeah. You'll be, not that Cleveland needs to rebuild, but you'd be restocking their farm system and probably at least one major leaguer.
Let me ask you this. If it started with Kamar Rocker as the major piece, would you do a Kamar Rocker for Emmanuel Clase?
No.
Okay.
No, because
I think it would cost something like that.
Yeah.
But Gray's Gray, whatever happens as a free agent after, let's say he's a starter. So you're going to have a spot to fill next year. Rocker's going to be in the rotation, but,
he'll have a limit on innings for sure.
But nevertheless, it's still like, okay, these rotations change year to year. And if you can have a guy for 6 years and he's going to be good, he's got his Tommy John out of the way. So
if I change the name from Kamar Rocker because you need him in your rotation, they said, well, then it has to be Sebastian Walcott. Not 1-for-1, but we're starting with Sebastian Walcott, your number one prospect, shortstop, who the Rangers, I think, are hoping in 2026 is their possible shortstop.
Man, for a closer,
you're getting the best closer.
We just did a whole thing the other day about how he'd be the number one pick. Right now, according to Callis, right?
Callis, yeah. What? Okay. Well, how about this? If you get Sasaki, let's say you get Sasaki, and then you still need a closer, then I might consider it. Because if you're going to have DeGrom and Sasaki and Rocker and Evaldi for 2 seasons minimum, and you need an ass kicker closer, then
this is where I'm not excited about this, but it makes sense and stuff like this. If John Gray at $13 million, starters are more valuable than relievers.
No doubt.
If you feel like you have enough starters with possibly Leiter in the minor leagues, Dunning as your 6th guy in the pen, stuff like this, would you look and say, who needs starting pitching more than they need their 8th or 9th inning guy?
Yeah, and there's probably plenty of teams that do. That said, because the Rangers, Jeff talked to a few people that don't appear like that. That's not really an option to move. I thought you were going to say move John Gray to that closer role because we all think he could do it, right?
Because that slider's when he gets ahead and counts, they know the slider's coming and it's a swing and miss pitch.
Yeah, but they don't appear willing, nor does he at this point.
I don't know either, Jeff. You get to know. I know John Gray pretty well.
I love John Gray.
I don't know if John Gray has a closer's mentality.
A great question.
I don't think he wants to do it.
And then you won't do it. If you don't want to do it, you won't do it.
But he was great in the playoffs. But in the playoffs, it's like, he's just coming off of injury. He'd missed the first 2 series. Like, I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just a different time. But there's no denying he's great.
Yeah.
Or has been. But it only makes sense for him to close financially because at $14 million, the best value is as a closer.
Yeah.
he always says, well, I have a rubber arm. I can bounce back. It takes me no time to get warmed up, all that stuff. Okay, great. But, and he's going to be a free agent next year. He's still relatively young. He's, if he has a great year as a closer, but wants to start, what's his market going to look like? What are teams going to want from him? And then, like John Smoltz, I guess, is always the example of a guy who was a starter, then a closer. But I think an injury had something to do with that. But it didn't last. But he was great when he did it.
Yeah.
He saved 52 games one year, I think. So it's just, I don't know. I like the idea, but a lot has to happen with John Gray.
Right.
If he doesn't want to do it, and
to Mike's point, if you don't want to do it.
He's so hard on himself, too.
Yeah, that's where I just don't. The closers, you can't have sleepless nights as a closer.
No. So, good question. And the last one from All About Sports Zone. Who's the better golfer, Tom Grieve or Mike Bacsik? So, I've played with both. And first of all, sad news. Tom has quit the game.
Oh, no.
Completely and totally.
Yeah, quit the game, sadly. Dumped his clubs in a lake. No, I'm kidding. He didn't. He didn't really do that. But it got too frustrating for him because he was good and very controlled. And I would say would probably beat Mike most times they played each other based on the fact that Tom pretty much knew where it was going every time. Mike can hit it 6 miles.
We're similar in our scores. So really a better question was between Rads and I, and I think it's honestly a 50-50. It just matters what day it is.
Yeah, we were, but then you've had a chance to play more than me for whatever reason since, so I may be struggling. But Mike hits the ball great, and it's except for one problem. He hits it he stands on the wrong side of the golf ball.
Yeah.
When he addresses it, I'm like, oh, God, you're lefty, but he hits it well, and it's...
Did you get a chance to play with Mike Maddox?
No, I haven't yet, but I've just heard he makes the game sound so simple.
It's precision golf.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's how Grieve was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how Grieve was. He was just, down the middle, on the green, whatever.
It's probably good from your pitching coach, too, to make the game sound so simple. That's kind of his job in life, too.
But he hits his spots. It's like, hey, Mike, the best spot is to be down over by that tree on the left side. Down by the tree on the left side.
So great.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so fun.
Time after time.
Yeah. All right, so man, it's been fun, Mike. We appreciate you coming in.
I got the Miller Lite.
Got the beer. We're ready to go. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We'll have Mike in again. I promise you that because it's always fun talking baseball with him. Look for him on the Rangers broadcast this year. Look for him to join us again anytime, real soon, anytime that we can get him as soon as possible. That's going to do it for us. And by the way, Jeff, we do have to say Merry Christmas to everybody because we've got the next 2 days off. We're back on Thursday, and of course, we're here on Friday. And but anyway, man, we have loved chatting with you. We hope each and every one of you have a very Merry Christmas, and we can't wait to talk to you again on December 26th on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.